Hello everyone, we are back again with another rectification video. This one is for Cannonball Adderley. Now let's take a quick look at our base horoscope before we begin the rectification here. Now of course he was a musician, a jazz musician, and one important aspect here or placement that we find is this Mars right on top of the 5th house. Now of course Mars is related to one's daily work or type of work, and it's installed in the 5th house, and of course this is one of the factors that led him towards a career in the arts. Now we have Jupiter in an artistic sign in a house related to recordings. Also we have 3 planets in Libra, and the ascendant in Aquarius helps him in innovation. Now if you look here at the band, of course it's the 11th house, also the 7th, but the 11th is installed in the 3rd, and here we can see a clear link between his band and him, recording, exchanging letters, recording together. And the Neptune in the 7th explains a spiritual connection with the crowd, also with his band. And the emphasis here, the Pluto in exact conjunction with the 7th, the Mars in the 4th, and the 3 planets in the 8th. These indicate a hidden career and a hidden daily activity, and this is mostly work in his studio. Now one more important aspect here. If we look at the Sun, it's a bit close to the 8th house, and it squares Mars, and he died of a stroke, and Mars is the planet that rules the brain. So here we can find a link that justifies his death. Very tight is this square, and very important in his destiny. Now let's jump into the rectification here. And I want to show you a little secret in rectification, which I've learned from Isaac Starkman. Now I got some events from Find a Grave for the death of his mother and the birth and death of his younger brother. Now these are the events that I'm going to be working with. We have his death and the death of the mother and the 2 events I mentioned. Now what I used to rectify this chart, I didn't look at transits first. I jumped right into primary directions. It's not my typical approach, but we can just take a quick look at our transits here, just to see that we are working with a time that is not very far off from the real birth time. Let's look here at our direct transits, and the first aspect that we notice is the conjunction of the South Node with the 4th house. Other than that, nothing catches my eye here. There's a sextile from Saturn. No, it's very far. Nothing catches the eye in this event, or at least I couldn't detect it. But if we look at converse transits, one aspect that I noticed here is the square of Neptune to the ascendant and the conjunction of Pluto with the 4th house. So these are 2 important aspects I noticed. Let's look at one last event here, which is the death of the mother. Both in converse and direct. Sorry about that. Okay, so the death of the mother. Now, a critical aspect that we see here, and I hope you can spot it. Now, if you've watched some of my videos, you should be able to spot it. And I'll give you just a few seconds here. I hope you could guess it, because it's the square. Well, there are actually two aspects. The square of Uranus to the 8th, and on top of that we have a square from the south node to the 12th. Two very critical aspects hit two very sensitive points in the chart. So from these two aspects, and from the square of Neptune to the ascendant in the first event, we can be sure that the real birth time isn't very far away from the recorded birth time. Now let's plug in our well, the events I already plugged them in. Let's just go to our software here, and let's do plus minus 30 minutes. Okay, let's do just plus minus 1 hour. So we would plus minus 1 hour on either side. I mean, we're doing this just to be safe, but now this is our table of rectification peaks, and since our birth time, the recorded birth time, isn't very far away from the real birth time, we can begin by checking the times that are closest to the recorded birth time. And the first time that we can check is this one here. Now, after checking some of these, what I noticed in this event here is that there is an opposition between Mars and Mercury at the time of the event, which is an aspect that is very critical. It's very clear in its symbolism and very appropriate for the event. Now, what this means is it can give us a possibility that the birth time that we have is actually located when this aspect is an orb, and our orb here is of course 11 minutes. So if we just see, this is minus 13.6, and it's an orb from about this time to about this time. So what we deduce here is that what we can do is that we can search for a time between this and this, and we can be quite certain that the real birth time is contained somewhere here. So what we can do now is that we can eliminate all other birth times that are not within this time frame that we have here. And the reason I'm doing this again is, so let's check this time here, this 2123. If we go to 2123, our Mars our Mars-Mercury opposition goes out of orb. And we need that aspect because we need to work with it for the event. And as you can see, it's out of orb and it disappeared somewhere. Now, why did I choose this aspect? Because it's in a harmonic, and we have a malefic planet which is Mars, and it aspects a planet which is related to siblings, which is Mercury. And if we eliminate all these times, we come down to a few times, but the time I chose, like this one, and this one, the time I chose is this one, 213808. And the reason for that would be it's very appropriate in both primary and secondary directions. It shows everything very clearly. Now if we look here at my time here, we notice that the Mars Mercury opposition is in orb. We have a sextile from Mars to the descendant at the time of the death of his brother. On top of that, a critical aspect here is the movement of the third house to a sextile with Saturn in converse motion. There are supporting aspects here, like the square of the south node with Mars. For his death, we have the ascendant in square to Pluto. The south node moves to a conjunction with the 12th house. So we have the south node comes to here. On top of that, there's a trine from the ascendant to Neptune. And for the death of his mother, there's also a trine from the ascendant to Neptune. The previous one was converse, and this one is progressed. For the death of his mother, the sun reaches the 6th house, and the 8th house is in conjunction with the south node. So this is the time that I chose, and this is the technique that I wanted to show you, and I'm pretty sure there's no other birth time than this one, because this is the most accurate. And here we can see the sun in conjunction with the 8th becomes tighter, thus the negative effect on the parts of the body ruled by Mars are amplified. This is actually a mundane aspect as well, because these two planets land on the cusps of the houses. So a very determining aspect in the fate of Cannonball Adderley. We can do the same thing, the same technique. We can use it with this Moon-Venus conjunction, because it's very appropriate for the birth of a brother. So what we would do is we would time limit using the orb of this aspect. We would find the time limit, and of course the orb is 11 minutes. So it would be from 21, almost from 21:25 to let's say 22. Again, almost, because this is out of orb. We can take 13.4 minutes, but we don't have to be that exact in our time frame. It's fine, as long as when we choose the rectification peak, this aspect is actually an orb. And we can do the same thing with this aspect. So our time frame would be this one. from 2125 to 22, and we can be sure that the real birth time is located somewhere here, because this aspect is very appropriate for our event. And that's it for our video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and please subscribe to my channel, and thank you.